My main goal is the film to reach millions of women who went through this ritual, and it's a human rights issue topic, and to screen the film in a human rights festival is for me one of the dreams come true, one of my goals also, because the people who come for the festival are interested in human rights films, and those are my target audience also. And apart from that, when you screen such a film, it's a call for help. You want people to act on something, how to tell a story, you know, instead of telling people what to say. You give people the opportunity to tell their own stories at their own pace, and how to be a good listener, how to conduct interviews. That's what I learned, and I'm applying that knowledge in my storytelling aspect, so to say.
So this is what I feel too about documentaries, that you have the opportunity to show the story of the people without some lines, some scripts, some...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to give, I don't want to like, of course I'm not saying I can't write a script, I can, but I'm into documentaries where I give platform for people to tell their stories, their issues, their problems, and maybe we try to give people information that they don't know about. And it's a way of giving people a platform to tell their stories, to find their voices and talk to the world without, you know, judging them, without without them feeling you're intimidating them because you have a camera, and we know that camera is a really a strong tool. So you don't use the camera to intimidate them, but you tell them, hey, here is the camera, and we want to use it to give you a platform to tell your story without judging you. So you tell what you want to tell, and yeah.
This is my opinion, and thank you for confirming that my feelings are all right, and that is the right thing to do. But tell me about the subject. How did you say that you first wrote an article about it? How did you decide to make this?
Like my first film, The Cut, it's a film about female genital mutilation. Where I come from, the practice...
At 3 years old?
What?
I know that at 3 years old, the young girls are passing through that.
So let's start like this. There are 39 countries in the world that circumcise women. There might be more, but I'm just giving the information according to the World Health Organization, because those are the known 39 countries. No. That means that it's not 39, it's 32. There are 32 known countries that practice female genital mutilation. And most are in Africa, and there is also Asia, and there is also India and in Malaysia. So while growing up, I had an urge to tell the story about female genital mutilation. From a woman point of view. So when I was studying mass communication, we were writing articles, you know, and of course some were published and some not. So I approached a certain media house, and it was not published. And my dream was to really tell this story about female genital mutilation, to give information outside there. But then I felt like I failed somehow because I didn't do it. But when I branched into film, I felt like, oh, I can tell my story actually in visual form and not just writing an article that was not published. So, yeah.
feel like an author more than just a student writing a novel?
Because I did the film, no? Not really, I mean,
I mean, you had more control on the content somehow.
For the filming.
Yes.
Well, even an article you write a lot, but you don't know how much it will be published. But for the filming, I filmed many hours, but of course you can't use. It took me about 5 weeks.
Oh, just 5 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it took me about 5 weeks to film the ritual, to do interviews, and after that there was a break because after girls are circumcised, or girls and boys are circumcised, they have to heal, and then there's a party to welcome them in the adulthood. So I had to film that also, but in total it took like 5 weeks to do the whole filming process. And it took me 5 weeks to do research. So yeah, and
it was very quick for a movie, right?
That was my first. We are talking about my first film about female. Yeah, my first film, The Cat, and it was. But for me, I felt like maybe because I come from the tribe or the society, it will be easier for me to film. But that wasn't the case. So it took me like 5 weeks to do research to find the possible protagonists that will be open to tell the story. But that was not the case. It was not really difficult to find people who are willing to talk before the camera and share their stories and their journey and stuff like that. But yeah, I believe a good story takes time. And I took my time. I mean, if you watch the film, there are calm interviews. I didn't rush anyone. I didn't tell anyone what to say. And they were open. I mean, it took time. It took time. I mean, 5 weeks were enough for the storytelling. I mean, I couldn't do it. There was no way I could do it everything in a day. There was no hurry because I really wanted it to to take time to tell the story, to cover the ritual, what's happening, to talk to the people, talk to the priests, and talk to the men who are organizing the ritual. So I wanted to also understand why does it really happen, because it doesn't mean that when you grow into this society that practice FGM automatically you know why they are doing it. I mean, of course maybe you grow there, you assume that you know, but at the end of the day you find out that you don't really know anything. But when you start interacting with the elders who are organizing it, the older generation that went through it, the young generation that has gone through it, the church, and then you learn quite a lot.
And they have no choice. I mean, shouldn't they have a choice? Shouldn't they say, yes, I want this, or I don't want this?
I basically most don't have a choice. You know, if you grow up in a society where men suppress women, you really have no say, because men rule. And then there's some decisions that are made for you as a woman that you don't, as a child, that you can't really say no, you can't go against your parents' wishes. And you have to do what your parents are telling you to do. And you think, your parents knows better what is better for you, and you trust them. And even if you're going to say no, where are you going to run to? But right now there's change. There are some girls who are saying no, I don't want to be circumcised. But there are some who are saying no, but the parents have to tell you no, you have to go through it, and you have no choice. You have to do what your parents say. So let's say it's a really, it depends on it depends with the family background, and if the families are for circumcision or they are against circumcision, or even if they were for circumcision, they no longer do it, then the girl is safe. But if you come from a family that say all my girls must undergo circumcision, a must, then there's no way that you're going to escape it. But let's say at the moment there are some few parents who are changing their perspective about circumcision, so they are protecting their children. Let's say like that. And
I think it's really, apart from the man, circumcision is really a violent thing for women, and I cannot understand a Romanian girl once fell in love with somebody from that culture, and as an act of love, she did that surgery, I don't know if here or in another country, for that man.
do you ever hear something like that, or you just think?
No, it's a real fact, because in last year in Romania, in a bookshop, there was a book on this topic launched, and in the audience there was a woman who testified, who said she had a friend, a girlfriend, and for her lover did that as an act of love, and told us that we should understand if we were trying to
actually no.
the culture. I don't know. I never heard that.
I never had such a thing, but
You never
that's
heard that?
no like a woman. No, a European woman did that.
It's an act of love.
No, that's crazy.
As Romanians, we have this, I don't know, mentality of sacrificing, giving it all for the man we love.
I mean,
If he was crazy enough to ask her to do that, and she felt like, yes, I will show you my love.
that's crazy, because what I have had when I was studying in Uganda is I know that in Uganda male circumcision is not compulsory, and I can't generalize how many men are circumcised or ones who are not, but I know that they do it willingly. So it's not something that is organized by parents or whatever. You do it willingly. So I know that I've had cases where a girlfriend asked a boyfriend to be circumcised. You know, it was like a girl asking a man to be circumcised, like, where I come from, we circumcise, can you do that? And the man agreed to do that. But for a girl, I haven't had it, but I know that, like in my society, I know that there are different cases. I mean, it's hearsay, but I have had several cases where that by women, after they get married and they are not cut, during childbirth they are circumcised. You know, when they are giving birth, they delay taking you to the hospital so that they can cut you. So you are in labor, you really don't know what's happening. It's after the child comes out and then you realize, oh, something has been done to you. So there are women who have gone through that. And I know that when I was like filming in 2010, there's a woman, no, women, people die. I mean, we can talk about that. There's this person who came and said, no, I approached another girl and I said, you are doing a terrible mistake. You can really run away. It doesn't help, it's painful, and you will have some health complications. She just looked at me and said, well, if complications and whatever comes later, it's fine, I will learn on how to live with it. But right now what I need is peace of mind. I'm tired of seeing my mother crying day in, day out. Our dad doesn't want us to be circumcised, our mom doesn't want us to be circumcised. But the society, the pressure is too much. They are insulting our mother. They are chasing us from our land because we are not cut. I want it done now for the sake of peace. There is no peace. I'm tired of my fellow students mistreating me in school. And to make the matter worse, our sister was sent home yesterday. The sister was married and she had 2 children. She was sent home to be circumcised so that she can go back to the husband. And that's not one of the cases. You know, there are several cases like that. During circumcision, your husband say, you can go back to your home and be circumcised. And be circumcised if you love me. There's those cases, they happen. And in this ritual, people die. You know, they cut you. I mean,
I heard that every woman dies at every 6 from female.
Yeah, people die. You have to know that every day, 6,000 women around the world are circumcised. Every day. And these women die. I mean, I'm not saying it's every woman who dies, but they bleed to death. Because remember, this ritual mostly it's done in the bushes, in the rural places. And sometimes it's really not easy to reach the next hospital or clinic where a girl can be helped. Even boys die. I mean, they die. They really die. I mean, I haven't seen anyone, but I have heard, like, somebody was circumcised and they die. The belief differs from one community to the other. Like the Somali, they say God has taken you, or whatever. It was not, and they don't admit. No. They don't admit that the death is related to FGM. No. They don't. It's something. It's like someone saw the girl with a bad eye. Someone, the God chose the girl. The gods, not the God. The God chose the girl. Yeah, maybe the girl was weak. She bled. There's so many. They into denial. They deny that it's not the girl died because of FGM. Yeah, I mean not medical causes. FGM. I mean they cut. The place you cut is not like you cut dead leaves. It's an amputation. When you ampute someone a place, you go to the hospital and it's done in a right way. But FGM is an amputation. They're cutting a live body. They're cutting an important body part. And you bleed. There's a lot of bleeding. But that doesn't stop people from doing it. Even those people who lost their girls or their boys because of circumcision, because of a bleeding, they will still carry on to do that. That didn't serve as an example to them, but still they continue doing it. And you had mentioned that it's done in 3 years. It depends with the religion where you're coming from. In some countries in West Africa, they do it even with 6 months.
6 months old.
Yeah, 6 months old child. In my tribe, they do it with 14 and 16, but nowadays they are reducing the years because there are campaigns to stop FGM. In some parts like Somali, they do it at 5 years, 7 years. So let's say it starts from 6 months, or from the time of birth, from 6 months to like 16 years. I don't know whether they do it until 18 years, but let's say during my grandmother's time, they did it when a girl was mature. When I talked to my grandmother, she said during that time, parents waited until the girl has developed breasts. Then they know that the girl is ready, is ready for marriage. So we have to prepare her. Then they have to cut your ears, like they have to decorate your ears for certain age. And then they have to they have to make a space between your teeth, and then they circumcise you. Those are the rituals that a girl could undergo to come from to pass the stage of childhood and adulthood. So they were initiating you to adulthood. They prepare you that now you're a woman, you'll get married, you'll give birth, you'll have to raise your own family. But it was not done when a child was 10 years. That was too young. Of course, nowadays, let's say people mature earlier than maybe those years. But my grandmother was like, we were mature girls. And people were circumcised when they were 18, 20, depending with the time you take to mature. So, and the parents were not circumcising young children because they were regarded as kids. So they couldn't cut children. But nowadays, they don't consider that. They don't consider age. And we have to know that circumcision, like female circumcision, has nothing to do with religion. Muslims do it, Christians do it. So it has nothing to do with the religion. It's just a barbaric culture. that I don't know, was started by our forefathers, and maybe one country copy each other. I have no idea, but it's a ritual that has been there for centuries. I read somewhere that it started in Egypt during the times of Pharaoh, and the wives of the rich were doing it to make themselves beautiful for their husbands, and to differentiate themselves from the poor, not the poor, the the slaves. Yeah, and basically there are like 3 types of circumcision. One, they cut the tip of the clitoris; they don't tamper with any other part. And the second one is they cut the clitoris and part of the labias, and the third one they cut the clitoris and all labia minora and labia majora, and they stitch the place.
Yes,
and
that's the one I heard.
and then they leave a place for periods and urine to pass, but you know that they have stitched you, so there's no way a woman can urinate normal. So you sit in toilets for hours because it has to drop. You know, it passes as drops, and it takes time. Of course, these types of circumcision differs from one society to the other, from one country to the other. You find out that in Kenya mostly they practice. Some tribes practice mostly type 2. Type 1 is rarely done in Kenya, and also type 3 is done by like the Somali community. These types differs from one country to the other, and the ritual differs from one country to the other, because there are some, in my society, a woman is seen by men. You know, once you are cut, you receive it by your family, and it's a huge celebration. They are dancing, and
they don't want to.
No, if you don't have the means to have a party, then you don't do it. You just invite few people whom you can afford to take care of. But in most cases, even if there are those few people, 10, they are like celebrating. So there's no way that you will have a party that with the, excuse me, there's no way that you'll have a party with the people you have invited. People come, they invite themselves, and people come, you will feed them. So you have to prepare yourself. So there are some parts that they don't do the ceremony, you know. They have their own ritual in their own way. And there are parts where once you are cut, you will not be seen by men. You have to stay indoors for all that period, maybe a month or 2 months, I don't know. You have to you don't get in contact with men. There is this woman who is taking care of you, maybe a group of girls in a bush somewhere, and then they bring food somewhere, and then she has to bring it to you. And this ritual differs from how they practice, the ceremony differs from one society to the other. So, but
did you have the chance to talk to authorities and ask for their authorities? I don't know.
In Kenya, it's illegal. Since 2011, there's a law that it's illegal to do it. Yeah, let me start again. Since 2011, it's illegal to practice circumcision in Kenya. But
so you go to jail
if they arrest circumcisers, but then after a few days they release them, then they go back to their work. They continue circumcising. I don't see that it's helping for real. I can't say that there's changes. Those people are jailed. They stay in jail for a couple of years. I haven't seen it. Yes, you hear that a circumciser was arrested, and 2 days later she was released. She continues to circumcise. What does that mean? But I know that nowadays there are several campaigns against female genital mutilation, especially in Kenya. And for example, in Burkina Faso, what they're doing is they really arrest people and they put them in jail. If a neighbor knows that a certain family is going to circumcise their girl without and doesn't report to the authority, that neighbor goes to jail also. She knew about it, she or he knew about it, and she didn't report, and it's working. And the campaigns are so intense, and some tribes, they're like come together as a community and say, we are not going to circumcise anymore. They dig a grave and they bury all those circumcision equipment, and I mean the tools they use to circumcise, they bury them, and then they're like, we are done, we are not going to do this ritual anymore. We did it unknowingly, we didn't know that the effects women suffer are related to FGM, and we are done with it. But there are some places, they now start cutting 6 months baby or some few months old baby, because they're like, the child will not say, you know, they will not say that they cut me. So they do it secretly. Of course, the preference rate, for example, in Burkina Faso is still high, but the campaigns are really doing something. There's some change. Yeah, and there are still other places where their campaigns are like hitting the rock. So,
were there any, I don't know, reactions that were not very happy, or some people that were not very happy that you were doing this documentary and they tried to, I don't know, intimidate you?
When I was filming, let's say, it wasn't easy in the field. Yeah, of course. I mean, during that time, I feel like people are wild, honestly. They're wild, and men just wanted to dance with us forcibly, and they didn't understand why I'm carrying a camera around filming, because I had a crew. And they were saying that I'm basically going to sell it to make money, become rich. I mean, I'm the same person. I mean, I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to tell the world what's going on, because for me, it's just it's not a nice thing. It's suppressing women, and you know, if you pass information to the world, it's a cry for help, and you give information to the people who don't know that such rituals exist. Because I believe in many European countries, people don't know about it. And it's bizarre. And yeah, I didn't do it to sell our unique culture or whatever. But some stories are worth to be told, you know. And I felt like FGM is a story worth telling. It's our story worth sharing, because we need to save our children. We need to save our society.